October 31st. I knew that the world would be a mess when I left Vault 76. I knew it would be full of mutated creatures and monsters and radiation. What I didn't know was that people would be the worst monsters of them all. After resting for a bit, I made my way back to the top of the world to finally meet Rosie. I didn't know what I would find, and knowing Rosie was a raider, I knew I had good reason to be suspicious. Instead of heading to the top, I decided I would check out the second floor first. For all I knew, she had a gang just waiting to jump me from the second floor. The elevator doors opened to show what looked like a dilapidated shopping center. And of course, I found more Scorched. Surprise, surprise. No one who lived in Appalachia was safe from this plague. I keep thinking how lucky I am that I found Dr. Hudson's work. I took some time to clear the poor bastards out before I took a look around. I was standing in the remains of a once popular tourist attraction. Restaurants and storefronts lined the outer walls. Wooden structures, barricades, lounge areas, and more were built and scattered around any open, usable areas. The raiders had built a life for themselves at this resort. I didn't have time to explore more. Next stop, the third floor. The top of the world was a bit underwhelming. An old restaurant or lounge area with skeletons strewn about, and tables still set with glasses and dishes. Dead raiders laid around the couches and eating areas, but I didn't find any scorched up here. Not even dead ones. Maybe Rosie got rid of them when they tried to break in? I'm not sure. The view was pretty damn nice, though. I found a door to the left of the lift and figured that's where Rosie was. I was expecting to find a woman, armed to the teeth and covered in crude armor. What I didn't expect was a Miss Nanny robot, her exterior covered in chains and markings and a piece of red metal scrap on top of her body piece. My gaze was quickly pulled away from the raider bot and over to a cage made of scrap metal hanging from the ceiling. Inside, I saw a man in a fire breather uniform. He didn't move or even breathe. He had been dead for a long time. My first thought was to raise the gun and shoot the Miss Nanny until it stopped twitching, but I knew I needed information from her. I approached Rosie cautiously to see what I could get out of her.
Well, this is a little awkward. Not what either one of us expected, eh? Anyway, to prove I'm not a monster, I scrounged up some old junk to give you as a reward.
She would occasionally grab a needle or chem and try to inject herself with it, as if she couldn't help herself.
Oh, hey, I had something to say to you. Now, what was it? Right. So, wanna help me out again?
Why should I help you? You almost stabbed me in the back.
Almost. I almost backstabbed you, but clearly I didn't, or you'd be dead. Point is, you're alive and stronger for it because of me. Did I even get a thank you for that? No.
Tell me about the raiders who used to live here. Are they all dead?
My kind of people. We were hardcore. The originals. Not these wannabes and losers who refused to join up with me. We split into 5 gangs. Cutthroats, trappers, diehards, Blackwater bandits, and the gourmands. Each one was special in their own way, except for the diehards. They were a bunch of boring losers. So the old bands of raiders each had their own, pet projects or whatever, to be all special. If I'm ever going to rebuild a raider army, I need to figure out which of these crazy tactics actually work. We both win. I get answers, and you get a new toolbox full of scary things you can use to terrify your enemies and gross at your friends.
You know what? I don't believe any of the crap you're saying, Rose. Just another asshole raider.
Ho, 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 ho! Standing up to me! Guess you do have a spine after all. You don't have to believe me to learn from me. I'm offering to help you find new and crazy ways to mess people up. And then, when you get what you want, we part ways. Work for ya. We'll start with my personal favorite, karma. No, not that new age bullshit. I'm talking about a chem that hits hard but leaves you reeling. My cutthroat friends figured out a way to weaponize it. I'm gonna lend you my old syringer, and you're gonna modify it to shoot carbon darts! Just bring it back, or I'll find you and kill ya! Seriously. Not joking. I really will.
Rose explained that there were 5 raider gangs and each had their own way of surviving the wasteland. The cutthroats, the diehards, the trappers, the Blackwater bandits, and the gourmands. She wanted me to test out each so that she could find which ones were the most effective. Effective at what? I didn't know. But if I was going to get the Scorched detector uplink that Madigan had found, I needed to go through with this. Before heading out, I paid my last respects to Madigan.
Oh, I see now. You're here about that guy, huh? Well, good luck getting anything out of him. He's been dead a while.
And you just kept him in this cage?
I ain't put him there. That was the previous tenants. They were real slobs. You know, I keep meaning to find a maid service, but who has the time, right?
What happened to him?
He came up here to negotiate with my raider associates. They strung him up and left him to die after convincing him to spill the beans about what he was up to. Before you ask, I don't know. I wasn't there.
He left a message saying he found something. A game changer. What was it?
Who knows what goes through their dopey responder brains? Can you imagine going through life 100% chem-free? Anyway, you're probably looking for that Scorched detector uplink thingamajig he was trying to install when they caught him. Seems real handy. I know where it is, but I'm not ready to talk. But maybe, if you help me out, I'll trust you enough.
Madigan had given his life to help the responders and the fire breathers and ended up a trophy for raiders. I hope he didn't suffer, but from what I saw so far of these people, I'm sure his death wasn't a peaceful one. I said a final rest in peace under my breath before heading off to do the bot's bidding. Again.
I'll be keeping an eye on you from up here. I can see just about anything with my robot eyes and these viewfinders. And lucky you, since you helped me tap into the emergency broadcast system, you can hear my lovely voice from anywhere.
First on my to-do list was to find a way to add an attachment to a syringer to make it shoot a chem called Karma, something that the cutthroats cooked up. Knowing that some of the raiders called this place home, I decided to check if there was a usable workbench on the second floor. It wasn't long before I finally saw the full depravity of these assholes. Each shop was destroyed, barely recognizable, but the worst was a room full of cages with dog bowls in them. But they weren't for animals, they were for humans. Bodies and skeletons littered the floors of the cells, and next to it was a chair. One chair. I didn't want to think of the horrors that they subjected people to in here. If the Scorched I killed earlier were the remnants of what was left of the raiders here, I don't feel bad at all for putting them down. I tried to keep my anger at bay and focus on the task at hand. Add the attachment to the syringer, then get out of this hellhole. And sure enough, I found a workbench in Snowflake Baubles, which was an old gift shop. I made the necessary changes to the syringer and looked over my handiwork. Just in time for Rosie to pipe in through the speakers.
Now that you've got yourself some karma, it's time to see it in action. There's a mean old Mama Yaogwai I like to call. Actually, strike that. I lost track of her a while back, so just make it so there's one less Yaogwai to worry about. I don't care which one. If you can't find a Yaogwai, find something else that's tough so you can see the karma in action. I know, it sounds crazy to make a beast like that tougher and nastier, but once karma wears off, it'll be as weak as a newborn kitten. Ow. That's when you finish it off, assuming you survive the initial effects. Have fun!
Step 2 was testing this karma syringer on a Yaogwai. I had no idea what a Yaogwai was, but based on what Rose said, it was big and mean. I exited the top of the world and headed out to find something big and mean to shoot at. The sun had set and the night rolled in by the time I found what I was looking for. I stood on a cliff, overlooking a small pond below. It was full of trash and debris with a broken-down fisherman's shack on the edge. Among it all, I saw a withered bear, scars covering its body, teeth gnarled in its mouth. Was this a Yao Guai? I got nothing better to call it, so that's what I'll label it as until I'm corrected by someone. I pulled out the syringer and aimed at the animal. I had no idea how far these syringes could fly, but keeping my distance from the monstrous bear was crucial to my safety. I pulled the trigger and hit it directly in the body. Rosie's voice rang out right after I successfully injected the Yao Guai.
Stupid Yao Guai. Well, you didn't chicken out and you didn't fuck up, so that's a win in my book. Now put that thing out of its misery so we can get to the next task. Oh yeah, I've got another task for you after this.
Rosie wasn't kidding when she said that the creature would be hard to hit. I pulled out my rifle and tried to end it quickly, but that only caused it to run away in a rage. It eventually wandered back into view and I finished it off with a few quick hits.
Word to the wise, that karma stuff can backfire on you if you're not careful. And take it from me, you don't want to use it on yourself. Unless, you're really confident you can kill everything around you before it wears off. Okay, next we've got explosions. The trappers would rig up bait with explosives to take on some of the more dangerous game out there. I want you to go make some explosive bait and don't blow your fingers off in the process. You're not a robot like me. No replacement hands for you.
With the cutthroats' weapon tested, it was on to the trappers. Their weapon of choice was explosive bait to take down their prey. By their name, I can guess that they were hunters, more focused on taking down creatures. Here's hoping they weren't as brutal as the cutthroats were. The sun was up by the time the lift opened on the second floor of the raiders' den. It took some leftover radstag meat, a frag mine, some copper wiring, and some tape, but I was able to rig up the explosive. I think I am getting the hang of this crafting thing. I was looking forward to eating that radstag meat, but I guess the rest of that box of sugar bombs I found will have to do for breakfast.
Great, you've got yourself some gross meat-covered explosives, but now what? Well, use your imagination. The trappers sure did. Any hungry carnivore is sure to be drawn in by the smell of fresh meat. So this one time, Chuck, he was the guy who came up with this crazy idea. He laid out explosive bait along the trail after a raid. Then, when the responders came looking for us with their tracking dogs, well, let's just say the hounds lost their scent. Because their heads were blown off? Whatever, you get what I'm saying. I don't care what you use your bait on. Just use it to kill some things that would kill and eat you. Let me know how it works for you.
The all-seeing Rose chimed in as soon as I finished the trap, explaining how they used it on responders after a raid. Makes me sick hearing how gleefully she describes what they did. I know she is only a robot, but she had to be programmed by someone just as twisted, right? I remember an old saying I read about in a book. There is strong shadow where there is much light. As good as the responders were, there was always going to be a darkness that countered them. I decided to camp in the ruins the raiders left behind. Rose isn't the best company, but with the Scorched dealt with, at least I feel safe enough to sleep for a few hours. I found a dark corner in one of the hallways behind the stores and restaurants, and dragged a sleeping bag and whatever pillows I could find to sleep on. Of all the places I have slept since leaving the vault, this is the most uncomfortable place so far. The thought of what the raiders probably put people through plays in my mind like a sick movie. One thing I can say for sure: I despise raiders.